It's crazy how much they buy, honestly. It's insane. People are buying like $1,000 a month on WhatNot, and they just keep coming back. My boy did $1 million in his first 3 months with the supply out of Los Angeles. I kid you not. You ever seen those clickers for your phone?
Yeah.
He sells those. You've seen it. He sells it up to $70. His buy cost is $1. Oh my God. One show was like, I kid you not, they were probably making like $8,000 per hour. And they went 24 hours. It's just, I'm telling y'all, you're watching this video, WhatNot is so life-changing. It's insane how, he's gonna hit $1 million in a month, in the next 2 months.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment Podcast. We got Levi back in the house. I don't even know the last time he's been, but he's one of the most popular episodes. He sold over $1.1 million on WhatNot in the last year. We're going to break down everything, how you can get started, a beginner, and kind of what he's learned since he's been on, I think about 10 months ago.
Yeah, I started in May of 2025. Want me to take off from there?
No, first, a strong start to this will be, I think last time we had you on the pod, I was like, whoa, I'd never even heard of WhatNot. And you explained this so well. Yeah. Apparently other people did too, because that's one of our most viewed episodes. Now we look a year later almost, and Mr. Beast just had a huge thing. So explain to people, for people that maybe have not been here before, how important is the opportunity and how big do you think it'll be in the future?
Well, honest, in 10 months, oh my God. Let me just say WhatNot's life-changing for anyone that hops on. You could do it from your home. You can do it from your garage. That is the power of live social shopping. And, you're building community. You're building that returning buyer rate, And this is why I talked about in May. I was like, you can't build a personal brand or a store brand on other platforms. On WhatNot, right now, this entire year of 2026, we have a 50% returning buyer rate. So we have 100 buyers, 50 of them were returning from either a day or a few months ago. We don't know. We don't really track that. The analytics for WhatNot are not so great. We're trying to come up with softwares to fix that. But, that just shows that, they trust us, they trust our store, and they trust me. Even if I don't sell every day and I come like once a week, they know that, I represent the company of East Coast sellers and East Coast distribution on my main 2 accounts. I have other accounts now too. I just don't talk about publicly. Just keep it completely separate. Let it grow organically with, no affiliation. And it's doing pretty well too. Now the importance, it's a $500 billion market in China, and we're still like at $40 billion here in the US. So, WhatNot grew 100% again last year, what I was betting on when I first started WhatNot. Grew 100% in 2024. I'm going to say right now, it's March 2026, it's going to grow 100% again this year. They're valued at $12 billion now, which is huge. It grew more than 100% too, the valuation. But yeah, and the opportunities there, just to put it in perspective, since I started WhatNot, right, there was around 60 to 80, this is just electronics category, 60 to 80 sellers in the electronics category when I started in May of 2025. Today, there's still around 60, 70 sellers for electronics category. I think the difficult part is, people they burn themselves out. Like I saw big sellers from May, and then they stopped in September. And then they've done like 2 or 3 lives since then. And they were pulling in like 400, 500 viewers, up to 800 viewers, right? And it's just, for me, it's like, I think it was just the owner doing the lives themselves. And so they burnt themselves out. They didn't have any systems. And that's what I teach, like you don't have to be the seller the entire time. You can hire someone, people think you need personality. I don't think that's true. I think everyone has a story to tell, and you bring your own type of community too, people just like the way I talk, the way I sell, the way I interact, but they might like my other 2 streamers on my main 2 accounts, and it brings different types of people to our lives too, just having a mix of streamers in one account too. But yeah,
it's crazy, man. I went live probably 15 times. I had some good ones too, but I burn out just like that. I'm just like, I can't keep doing this. Especially the worst part is just the 2 hours and no sales, or like hour and a half and you get like 1 sale. But finding a way to mitigate that. Yeah. So let's just talk about that a little bit. So maybe people have tried it before. how do you get over this? Oh man, this is a grind and I'm not making any money. All businesses are like that, but WhatNot's, I think, a little different because you're talking to no one. You're talking to us, but really you're talking to no one. And you're like, oh, I'm talking to no one. No one gives a shit what I'm saying, that type of thing. So how do you get over that for the new guy?
So that's the thing, you have to try to get someone to talk to you, because once one person starts talking to you, multiple people just start yapping in the chat. And that's my problem. I talk too much. And that's what, people like me the most as the top streamer. I am the owner, but, I communicate the most, but while selling too, and that's a skill set you have to build up, be able to show the product, click start, but while also talking to the chat. I had someone come in from my Instagram yesterday, right? We were like beefing in the comments, and then he came to my live to check me out. And he's like, this guy's a volume seller. And he told me in the chat, he's like, I've never seen a volume seller talk to, every single person in the chat the way you do. And it's just a skill set you have to build up. And that's I think that's how we build that returning buyer rate. Our streams are slower paced, compared to other streams. People are moving really quickly. If you've seen it before, in 5 seconds, every 3 seconds, but they're not building that, relationship with the customers where they want to come back, and when you're moving fast paced, it's just all about money at that point. This business is transactional, of course, but I think they're forgetting about the social part. And so you say, how do you break that barrier between, you have no one talking to you, interaction? Well, it's like the most common questions I ask, and I get that too, but you also have to keep in mind what time you're going live. Right? We start around 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m. Eastern time, and it's always around 10 a.m. And this is how do I know this is probably the case? It's because I ask a lot of questions, and that's one way to create engagement in the chat. And it also hits the algorithm too. When people start typing in the chat, it hits the algorithm, right? So questions I ask, for example, is like, who's new here? Comment me. And every single time, there's at least 15 people that's me, who just walked in here in the last 10 seconds. Comment me. That's one question, right? And then you made them engage already, and then I ask them another question, a follow-up question. All right, what state are you guys from? Or who's at work? Oh, really? Like, just be curious, like, what do you guys work? Oh, wow, you guys are up so early, or from Cali, just random questions to get one person to engage. And then everyone's going to see how you engage with that person and want to come in. It's FOMO, people, they want to be part of something. And that's just in life, that people just want to be part of something. And unfortunately, you do see that on WhatNot a lot. You see people on WhatNot more than 12 hours a day, believe it or not. And so, I mean, for us, it's good. For certain people, may be good too. We know people on a personal level at this point too. We know how many kids they have or why they're buying, and that's also what questions we ask too. Especially me, because there's just no way to track that stuff. I ask everybody. I say, oh, like, drop a W if you're a mom. Bam, bam, bam. Like, this just gets spammed. I post it on my Instagram, or drop an S if you're a single mom. Oh my God, today was crazy. It was just all the single moms. And then you had this one guy, right? He's like, do you have like a bless the chat where I could pay $20 and I can give the gift card? They pay me $20 and I give a $20 gift card away for Amazon. Oh. I'm like, I've never done that before. Today was the first day I actually did it. And he was like, I love the single moms. I love how they're on here trying to save money. I'll support them. And so I put a $20 gift card up for first time ever today, right? But that was just through the interaction. How was that guy gonna know? There's that many single moms in there, or that many moms in general. And I also asked, or who's a grandma, or like, how many kids do you guys have? And you'd be surprised. There's people with 12 kids in my life, and I know that. And so when you see that, as you're growing your community and you're growing your lives, if you get to know them on a more personal level, you can find out what they're buying for. Are they a foster mom? They're donating, resellers, and that's just like a mental statistics that you're building up, where you can target them more, right? Or get more products that they want. It's crazy how much they buy. Honestly, it's insane. People are buying like $1,000 a month on Whatnot, and they just keep coming back. So, you could consider it recurring revenue at one point too. You know, and I mean, you could do that at Amazon. But you're just not building that personal relationship, and you could drive essentially some traffic off the platform, and that is kind of what I'm doing. I have a lot of buyers, especially my top buyers that come every day. They're bound to find out about my Instagram, and so I'm driving that traffic there. They reach out to me and they tell me they want more inventory, and I'm like, okay, let's work this out. So you save on shipping. I send you a pallet of inventory. And you can't do that on any other platform, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's go. Like, how can anyone get this started? Like, how much money would you need? You said you could do it from your home. Should you start with stuff you got? Like, where are you going to get stuff? Just for a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people who are listening to this podcast probably have heard about Whatnot, but like have no idea. Kind of want to get started, but like have no idea how to get started.
So I don't remember our last talk 10 minutes ago, but it's still liquidation. I think liquidation. I knew it was a $500 billion market in the U.S. alone, but the more believe it or not, I have some experience in liquidation, but my experience is growing even faster because I'm selling volume now. I'm finding more products I just wouldn't be looking for like Amazon, eBay. It's unbranded electronics, unbranded book bags, or just unbranded product that most people wouldn't look for unless you're selling at the flea market, right? Now, liquidation, I would start with your local supplier. People are oversleeping. They're sleeping on the pallets that are near them already. They're always looking for example, back in May, right? May, June, July, I was selling Amazon electronics, right? Everybody was asking for electronics. Everybody. Now everybody's just asking, oh, where's the Target pallets? Where can I get your Target pallets? And I'm like, first start of whatever you have locally, because if I was in California, it goes so deep in California. There's so much supply over there that there's just not that much of what's over there over here. My boy did $1 million in his first 3 months, with the supply out of Los Angeles. He lives in Los Angeles. He did it out of Los Angeles, right? But everybody in Los Angeles and California, 25% of sellers on Whatnot are in California. They're looking on this side or looking for Target pallets, and they're all looking for whatever I'm selling. And I'm like, you guys look locally. You guys are just sleeping. Look on Facebook Marketplace. Look on Google, and you get started with as low as $500. You don't need that much money. You don't have to buy a container. That's the mistake people are doing too. They're buying a full trailer of pallets, and they're losing a ton of money doing that too. And I wouldn't recommend anyone start with a trailer. I'm not even buying that many trailers. I'm still buying LTL. Why? Because the product is so dense. 10 pallets can have roughly $100,000 of retail value in there. So imagine, that's paying like roughly $10,000. Most people are putting $20,000-$25,000 into a trailer. That's a huge investment that you just didn't have to do, because unfortunately there's a lot of people like advertising, liquidation to, Whatnot sellers because it's trending, right? And they're falling into the trap. What they're doing is like saying, oh, this Amazon high piece count. Oh, it's great. There's so many pieces you're buying for $1 a piece. That stuff just doesn't sell on Whatnot. It's just the quality is very low. If it's returns, Amazon returns suck. How did I learn that? I learned that through the first 3-4 months on Whatnot. Amazon returns, for beauty, for example, they return water in a Dove container. You get, those are the type of customers. Versus Target, they're not really doing that, right? You get very clean loads. But yeah, start locally. And now if your money's very limited, this is why I've been telling people, and this is why I did 2020. If you watched on the last podcast, I'm pretty sure I broke it down how I started everything. I haven't seen anyone really document their journey.
Before we get into that, I wanted to let you know I created a totally free guide to get approved for the Amazon Influencer Program, how to scale it up, how I literally went from $0 to $50,000 in just Amazon commissions alone. There'll be a link down below. The guide is absolutely free. It's about 33-ish pages, and I have a whole video walking you through the whole guide. So if you want to start making money on the Amazon Influencer Program, definitely click the link below.
Selling from storage units. And my dad's still doing it. And he starts at $3. He doesn't even move that much volume, but he made like off of one of my customers, he made a $850 sale. On another customer, he did $1,800 off of one customer in one night. And that's just from random storage unit pulls, right? And my dad pays basically nothing. He pays $10 for a room. My dad just likes the thrill of storage units and looking through it because you don't know what you can find. He's found gold. You find a lot of good stuff, and you can pay as low as $10, as low as $50. But you have to be willing to get your hands dirty. Just imagine the margins on that, though. And so also going back to California, I think I've talked about my YouTube channel, but this is how deep it goes. I've talked to many suppliers out of California. And what they tell me is that, China, they send their liquidation here. They don't care about it. They don't care to try to sell on eBay, try to recover. No, they send it to warehouses in California or other, the same owners that have manufacturers in China. They obviously owners here on Amazon, like private label brands. If Amazon sends it back, they just take care of it. And they're selling pallets, as low as $100. And that could be filled with electronics. That's how deep it gets. And I just found out about this 3 weeks ago. And then talking to more context is true. They're like, yeah, we do that with our volume buyers. But how do you become a volume buyer? I think that's one of the ways too. The only way to grow in the liquidation industry right now is you sell by pallets, you broker pallets, or you start selling volume on your own, where you can buy containers at that price. And the only way to do that right now, I think, is WhatNot. Yeah.
What about besides liquidation? So I know I love watching these people. I'll still go and watch the candy people who do the candy boxes. And I'm I don't know. They seem like they don't get that liquidation. I would guess candy's probably not. So
that's liquidation.
Okay.
That's all liquidation.
Really?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So for example, that's also coming. Some of it's coming out of California too. Okay. It's just stuff that's near expiration date. But since we're, merchant fulfilling, we're not selling to FBA, you can sell it all in 1 week. You can sell a whole container in a week, especially at fill a box. You're filling up the box.
Mm-hmm.
A little tip if anyone wants to do fill a box and watching this video. Real simple. You got to create custom shipping profile, make it 5 pounds, and max it out at one item. Bam. That's your box. Put it to you can make the listing title, fill a box, add that shipping profile there, and bam, fill a box. Get a flat rate box and fill it up with whatever you want and just sell it. That's how simple fill a box is. Just set it up. But yeah, no, they're getting that real cheap. And it's just because near expiration. Oh, one of the top Amazon sellers reached out to me. Right? They reached out to me, and they're top 50 Amazon sellers. And they were telling me, we hop on a FaceTime. He shows me behind the scenes. He's like, oh, here's my, I think he has brand directs or his he buys from distributors. But, distributors also have to find a way to move their near expiration products too, right? And he was like, yeah, I have all of this. And he's like, I'm just having trouble selling it. But, he says he was paying 70 cents for a full Hershey bar, or not a full Hershey bar, a full pack of a candy, So you don't only have to buy it from pallets or certain suppliers. You can just reach out to distributors or even the brand, And this is why I talked about early May. The end goal for WhatNot, and even for me, it could be for others, is trying to get that brand direct liquidation. Calling brands and telling them, I'll give you 8%, 10% of retail for all your product that's about to expire. And that is really high. Why? Because we're selling it to end consumers versus your local liquidator or your big liquidator, they're trying to pay 2% to 5% to be able to sell it to us at 8-10% retail, you know? So we're cutting out the middleman because, you know, we're able to sell it to the end consumer very quickly and we're able to buy in volume, right? Versus the local liquidator or that big liquidator, they buy, I don't know, a whole container and they're selling it to like 20 different sellers like us, small sellers. But now the small seller take it into our own hands and sell it to the end consumer in volume, which is, I think the liquidation game is changing a lot. I haven't seen the pricing change so much because the thing is, like I said in the beginning of this call, you know, people get burnt out and they're not. They buy a container, they try to sell it, and they don't have the systems. They're the ones doing all the streaming, so they just get burnt out and like leave the business pretty quickly. So I think if you got that dog in you, and you can really scale this up really quickly in 90 days. I'm telling you, it gets crazy. Then you know, I'd recommend WhatNot 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing you touched on was the MRR thing, and this is what I came to the conclusion of this. Like when I was doing it, I was like, we had listened to you, and I'm like, dude, I'm never gonna get to the volume he's doing. I'm not gonna have a warehouse. Like I don't even want to do that. So I was like, how's this even gonna work? And then I really started breaking it down. I'm like, well, to get to like 10K a month, you have 100 people that buy $100 of shit a month. Like it's not that complicated on how to get there. And then okay, to get to 100,000 a month, you have $1,000 that only spend $100. So if you just focus on like every person that buys one thing from you, you just give them the absolute best experience ever. So they will come back and buy more. I feel like you can almost, instead of looking at it like reselling, you are a brand. Like you're trying to build these like MRR sources, which I don't think like people see it and think like that. But I think that's probably the only way long term to like really sustain it is just to get this customer base, which you talked about before. But kind of talk about that more too. How maybe somebody's like, I can't get a warehouse, I can't get all this, but maybe that's more important for some people.
That they can't get a warehouse?
Well, maybe they're like, I don't see the big volume, like I'm going to buy pallets and everything. But I think the goal too could be how do I get like a loyal following that watch me because I sell a specific thing? Like, is that a viable strategy?
Okay, so it wasn't up until January really where I started hitting that 50-50 rate, you know, and I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, this is weird because it was already by the end of January. Well, the game plan already the third, fourth week of January when I started noticing, I'm like, holy, like we have a lot of returning buyers. What do I do with this info? I even asked my customers on live. I was like, yo, what is that good or bad? I can't tell. I was talking to my boys. I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know, it's weird. Up until that point, I had an 80-20, you know, 80% new buyers. So what I did was I introduced more product, newer product. For example, bedding. I brought back beauty. I hadn't done a beauty stream in 3 months, and the first day back with beauty, I did $8,000 that day, with just in 6 hours, right? And that's something average sale price was like $6-7. They were paying pretty good because it took 3 months for me to finally bring it back. I also did electronics, so I brought back those 3 categories because for the last 3 months I was doing more sports and bags and outdoor stuff, and it's really cheap. It's so cheap that I was like, okay, I'm paying so cheap. I'm digging this, and then I realized, okay, let me just try to increase my average sale price by introducing. Oh, I realized, the customer's trust is there. They want more. They're willing to pay more, and it's true. The last 2 days now, our average sale price increased by 50%. Just by introducing more product and bundling. I'm still testing out new tactics too. And that's the thing. I think if you're constantly testing, and my customers know it too. They see it. I still have people that have purchased from me from May, and they're like, "Yo, you grew so much." I remember the storage unit days. I was selling out of a storage unit, a freaking metal background. They're like, "Wow, like man, it's like crazy." But that MRR, I think just the more time you're live and you're consistent, it just grows organically. As long as you do right by your customers, answer messages, ship fast. We ship out within 24 hours. next day by 1 p.m. it's out. USPS picks up. And sell good product too. The mistake I made in May and June and July, like I said, with Amazon returns was a little low quality. And so it did hurt the reviews a bit. I feel like if the hard part about reviews at scale, the customer base is different based off categories, right? Like the beauty buyers, the women buying, they always they leave very high, very good reviews, right? And so you'll notice like the electronics category, most of those are like around 4.8 stars, and it's just because of the giveaways, And so there's a little sacrifice. I do see like a lot of small sellers complaining, like Facebook mom groups are like, we have, I got a bad review. Oh my God, I'm at a 4.9 now. I'm never doing giveaways, blah, blah, blah. If you're doing right by your customers, they don't care about that 4.8, 4.9. There are some people that are really stingy about it, like, I want that 5.0. No, it's just, you're going to get a bad review. People are just ungrateful that you gave them a $50 product and they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't know, resell it. You got it for free. Turn it to 30, Okay. Also, the part of the MRR, now I'm thinking about it too, is so my customer base, the people I target are resellers, people that donate, personal, like moms, parents, grandmas, right? And people that donate, resellers, grandparents, pretty much, yeah. So I have, my buyer pool is pretty large. The resale, for example, I have like OtterBox cases, Apple cases here. It can always come back and buy more to resell it on a different platform. I'm volume based versus they're fine selling on eBay, on selling on Facebook at the flea market. Have a buyer that they own a flea market now. I had a customer come in today and said, I made $400 at, was it a flea market or garage sale, in 4 hours selling your stuff, my stuff, $400 profit. I'm like, and there was like 130 people in the line. I'm like, you see, like, that's why I talk about, you guys can make money off me. I don't have a problem with that. Like, you can make money. That's also a method too, buying from WhatNot. If you're trying to grow your capital, buy from WhatNot and sell on eBay, sell on Facebook. Now the problem with that is, there's not a lot of scammers on the app. It's just that since we're fulfilling it ourselves, there's space for a lot of error, right? And so people are looking for that trusty seller they can continue buying from. Like, one of my big sellers always tell me, I just have bad, I don't have good experiences with other sellers. I'm only buying from you, really. I buy everything from you. And so they're probably making a living off of it, and so of course you're gonna keep coming back. And I watched a video for the top eBay seller, right? And he was talking about he doesn't negotiate with the flea market sellers that asking for a price, he pays it no matter what, right? Because he knows if they keep coming back, if they're profitable, they know what price they're profitable at. They're going to keep coming back and supplying him. They're both making money. So, people are always trying to get top dollar or whatnot. If you guys are both making money, you guys are both getting a great deal, both parties are happy, that's how you grow that, MRR. But that's kind of the mindset I carry selling on WhatNot. Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah, are there, for new people or just people in general, are there categories they are good to get started with? Are there categories to avoid? Or does it not matter?
Okay, so the only category I would recommend avoiding, unless you're buying like high-end product or Y2K, you have a supplier for that, avoid clothing or shoes, unless you're coming in with big money. If you're coming with big money, you can invest into a very wide catalog, a bunch of different sizes, a bunch of different styles and everything. It's going to be very difficult, right? For example, right? Drew said that he barely had any viewers, right?
Dude, I had clothing. I did clothing.
Oh, okay. So that's the worst category. Yes. Why? This is
because there's so many different things, and you
Yes,
only like one person is there for one shoe. I'm an idiot, man. I thought I was a genius because the clothing was all like $1 a piece, and I'm like, no, because each person, like if you're a woman, you're not gonna buy a large T-shirt, like unless you're for your kids. So yeah. Explain that. This
plus size does very well. Talking to many sellers, plus size does very well. Even my dad sells plus size, and he's like, yo, I'm ripping these at $25. He's like, I pay the storage unit for 10, you know. But I mean, that's one way to source if you're buying even cheaper than $1. But clothing is WhatNot is a game of chance, basically, you know. And so this is why I have a lot of, you know, I have a very wide catalog now. I sell bedding, toys, electronics, beauty, a mix of everything. You know, why? Because we're able to grab products based off of demand. You know, all you can see is that viewer count, right? How many people are watching your live? 100 viewers. Okay, out of those 100 viewers, what are the chances that more than 2 people, because you need 2 people to fight for it, right, want a size large in that specific style, you know, and it's a dress, you know, what are the chances, right? Chances are already low. Now imagine if you have 20 viewers as a beginner, it's basically zero.
Yep.
Right, you're not gonna get a bidding war. You're gonna sell everything at $1, and someone's buying it to resell, you know, on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. So it's the same thing with shoes too. You know, like one of my students, he sells shoes, and what he lacked in was variety. You know, he didn't have enough variety. He thought he had enough. You think you have enough? No, because believe it or not, there's people with. He was telling me there's people that spend $20,000 already on shoes in 3 months. And they're not. It's not for resale. It's not for resale. It's for personal. So just imagine, like people are coming back at least once a week to buy a pair of shoes to either feed their addiction or they just love shoes. But if you don't have a variety, they're like, oh, I already have all your styles already. You just lost a bidder. You lost someone in your buyer pool. So variety makes a huge difference. You know. So that's one category I would avoid. Beauty. Talking to a lot of sellers, beauty, you have to watch out for expired products, you know, especially batch codes. I didn't even know about that, but I wasn't buying any of that. Like I said at the beginning of this video, you know, people, if you're buying Amazon beauty returns, you got to watch out. There's different programs, of course, but I was buying the return program, where, you know, you get water and like a random Dove bottle, and you wouldn't even know. And, you know, I was selling it because I didn't know. So I would grab it, sell it, ships out. They're like, yeah, this is not Dove soap shampoo. And it was like, ah, oh, shit. Okay, you know. All right, here's a refund. And so I think at the end of the day, your goal should. I always recommend everybody if you're gonna do a live show. For your first show, have 100 different products, at least. But the best way to do that is just do a liquidation pallet, you know. Or there's like I said, there's suppliers in California where you could literally hand pick what you want to put in your pallet. You know, there's nothing like that here on the East Coast that I know of. Maybe in Chinatown, right? But yeah, I think liquidation pallets are the best. And avoid bulky items too. You don't want to really sell bulky items. You want to try to take advantage of those free priority mail boxes, and you know, and try to get people into priority mail so you can take advantage of those free boxes. And that's what I was doing in the beginning. Now I'm investing into boxes, but just because I'm selling at a higher sales price too now, so it makes sense too, right?
Yeah, I did. What do you think about this strategy? I was looking for something that could sell. I tried clothes first because I'm like, well, T-shirts are cool. And little did I know all the stuff you just said. So I tried hats. So I bought hats for around under $1, maybe like 60 cents a hat. And those did all right. But the problem is when there's a bad hat, like no one's going to buy the bad hat. But you can bundle them up. What's funny is I would sell these hats maybe like $2 or $3 a piece. So I wasn't even making any money. And then I would bundle 5 together and sell them for $5 a piece. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Okay. I just offered that to you for $2 and now you want to buy it for $5 because now you get 5 of them.
Okay, so Okay, WhatNot is weird. It's so crazy. Like one moment you sell product at $10, and then the next one, like literally the next time you run it, it goes for 20, and we're like, what the hell? It just sold for 10, and everybody's like, oh, it's because somebody else wanted it. I don't know, right? But now I can explain to you why that is. It's because of shipping. Okay. So I tell people there's 3 reasons why people buy on WhatNot: the streamer, the inventory, and shipping. Right? If you can, I'll tell you about the new strategy I'm working with right now, and I just started doing it 3 days ago. It's working. What I've seen is that there's smaller orders, but there's people that are buying volume. They're buying even more. I increase you know about the 921 rule between 1 to 5 pounds, right? I do it right under that, 1 pound. I do 15.9 ounces, right? So it's right below that 16 ounce range. And so what they don't see that 921, right? They see like $7 to $8 for the first item, and the second item will be the difference between 921 and the first item. Now I decreased the bundle size from, it was buy 2 get the next 8 free shipping. Now it's buy 2 get the next 3 free shipping. What I can do now is bundle more in one auction and not pay the shipping out of my pocket. Now it's going back to the customer. But what I've seen now is that people are valuing more the bundles because they feel pressured to pay for that to save on shipping. Versus before, they would see a $4.50 shipping cost. They wouldn't really. I've seen higher bids as a recent because they see that $7.50 shipping. If I do want single items here and there, well, like 50% of the time, and then the other 50% of the time, I'm running bundles like 2-in-1 lots. They're like, I gotta buy it now because I'm saving money on shipping. Now the other tactic I was using before was buy 2 next 8 free shipping. There was a lot more people filling up their boxes up to 10 items because they have guidance. I don't even know if you know this, that there's a free shipping range. Did you know this? So you do know this. Even sellers don't know this. They don't understand this. So just imagine a new seller. I didn't even know this until 4 months later on WhatNot. By asking customers, wait, you guys see free shipping? They're like, yeah, you see free shipping once you buy a certain amount of items. I'm like, okay, imagine how many new buyers are coming to that every day. They don't know that there's a free shipping range if it's between 16 to 80 ounces, depending on how you set up your settings. And so that's why I tell people, like, you got to make it very clear to them. You got to understand shipping so you can sell that too. If you tell them that their next 8 items are free shipping, they will stay for 2 hours to fill up their box with something that they didn't need, right? It's just something they wanted. It was a bargain, so they took it. But now what does that do? That increases your buyer pool. It's an endless cycle. People just want to fill up their box. But there's always someone coming into the live and buying into it. You guys got to see it like that, They're buying into your show. They're paying that, $7 shipping, $5 shipping. They know that there's free shipping after a certain point, right? Usually after 2 items. They're going to commit to your show because they pay for that shipping cost. They don't want to go pay $5, $7 more in another show anymore. And that's their budget for the day. I'm just going to buy from this show because I already paid shipping. There are a lot of new buyers to the app where they just don't know what's going on, and they're just buying on every single show. But then they realize, oh my God, I spent so much money on shipping. And they realize because they're like, they thought they were spending $10 here and there, but then when the shipping costs add up, they're paying like $5 to $7. It adds up, So yeah, you got to increase your buyer pool, and that's one of the ways, to really tell them what is your shipping, how is your shipping set up, and most sellers don't even understand it, which I think they're losing a lot of money on. Yeah.
John.
So how do you get the free shipping then? After 3 items, it's usually free.
So the thing is,
you said
so WhatNot has a contract. Anything between 1 to 5 pounds, in a 12 by 12 by 12 dimension, it's $9.21, right? They also have a flat rate box up to 70 pounds, that's also $9.21. Now, what if you buy 8 ounces and your shipping settings is 8 ounces or 10 ounces, right? Or even 15 ounces. The 8 ounces, right, will probably be the lowest. It'll be charged $4.50 for that first item, right? And now you add another 8 ounces. Now you're at priority mail, because you're at 16 ounces, right? 8 plus 8, 16. They charge a difference between the $9.21 and whatever they charge in the first item. So if it was $5, the second item will be charged $4.21. But now, every time you add 8 ounces, you can add 10 into a box. 10 times 8, 80 ounces, right? The next 8 are free shipping. That's for 8-ounce shipping profile, right? And then you could change it to 15, which is buy 2, get the next 3 free shipping. 15 times 5 is 75 ounces, so you can only put 5 items in that box. And for it to be $9.21, and so, but how are people supposed to know that, especially when they're new to the app? They just don't know. Like they're in their heads, they're thinking, "Oh shoot, I got to pay shipping for every single item." No. You have free shipping after your second item. You just have to buy 2, and now you have 3. And now they're just buying pointless stuff that they didn't need. And now they're competing with each other. So this is where the endless cycle starts. The first 30, 40 items in the show is always the cheapest, and that's when people quit. That's how you gotta. This is why I say, like, you can. There's 2 methods. You can just start you don't have to start $1. One of my accounts, we start at $5, and believe it or not, it has the highest sales price. The highest sales price, and it doesn't even start at $1. It's slower pace. There's more of a personal relationship, but the average sale price is much, much higher for every single item, right? And there's only 20 to 30 viewers. And so that's when I realized, like, hey, like, it doesn't really matter if you start at $1 or not. Obviously have quality products where it's selling at $5.80. Now, the buyer pool there is very, very small, but sometimes people just buy because they enjoy being with you, and this is like will open my perspective talking to like a 3-year seller, right? And he's been selling on WhatNot for 3 years, right? And he really focuses on the experience. Like, he wants to put on a show, right? He makes it entertaining. And so I kid you not. You ever seen those clickers for your phone?
Yeah.
He sells those. I've seen it. He sells it up to $70. His buy cost is $1.
Damn.
Whoa.
And so he sells it consistently for $17, $18. I know what he says to them. He says, this will help you get more viewers into your live if you're a WhatNot seller, or it will help you win the giveaway since you're tapping on the screen. And so that's what people are buying, But at the same time, he provides experience, like, I believe no other, And so, like, he's teaching me too. Like, he's telling me, like, he's like, your streams are boring. I'm like, bro, I'm selling to grandmas and moms. They're at work. They don't really care. I'm profitable. He's like, I think you could provide more. And so that's kind of what I'm working on, how to make it more entertaining. But my business model is more, I want to, I scale, horizontally, more accounts, more streamers. The buy cost is so low where, it's very difficult to lose money, right? But it's also, it doesn't require a lot of talent either. You can build with the account, you can build through time, So back in May, Kristen, I had 4 streamers. 1 quit, 2 I let go. They were sisters, and I have 1 still. Her name's Kristen, right? And we tell her all the time. Even my dad tells her, "You sucked." And we tell her, like, "You sucked. I'm not gonna lie, you sucked." I was close to like letting her go, right? 10 months later, everybody loves her. She knows all the tactics, like all the sayings that I say. That's one way to train a streamer. If you are watching this video, like, you sell on your own, you sell yourself, have someone next to you and it's been working very well for like other people too. Have them pass you products, have them sticker the products, make it organized, clean up, and everything. They're gonna keep listening to what you're saying, and they're gonna mimic you like a parrot, right? They're also gonna see how the way you sell, the way you move. You know, I think that's the best way to like really train a new streamer on a new account. You know, but I wake up in the morning, I look at my account, I'm like, okay, cool. 4,000 in sales. All right, she's doing all right. I don't really have to like look over her shoulder anymore. I know she knows how to control the pricing. She knows if it's like a low day, but she also knows how to make it bounce back up. You know, but that's just through time. But how was I able to do that? Because I was buying so low, and I'm still buying. I'm buying even lower now, where she knows my buy cost. She knows what's my target price. Okay, use your tactics and go for it. And so yeah.
How much do you pay your people?
I pay her $22 an hour. I start at 18, and I bring them up to 22.
No commission.
No commission. I think I did say I was trying to do commission in May. The hard part about commission is like there's days that are lower and there's days that are higher, right? Where sometimes you just have to end the stream after like 3-4 hours. It's like, no, it's not good, you know? Also the flexibility too. I think about WhatNot. I mean, you'll get like 1 or 2 people a month complaining about like, oh, you had a show scheduled for 6 a.m. You didn't show up yesterday, or you showed up. You didn't show. I'm like, bro, like people in the live are like spanking it. They're like, oh my god, you drove 30 minutes to his store, and it's true. You know, at the end of the day, the flexibility about WhatNot is that you could, even if you're late, sure, like some customers are gonna be upset, but oh well, you know, like for me, it's just like they just know we're on in the mornings, you know. We don't have to be on point on time at 6 a.m. Like, all right, show up at 6:30 if we're late, or 7 a.m. We'll be live in the morning. So that's the flexibility that she has. You know, she basically chooses her days off. Like, oh, I have a wedding on Sunday. Can I take off on Monday? I'm like, all right, no problem, you know. And I think that's what people truly like appreciate in a job, like the flexibility. I also think like we're currently working on is being able to sell virtually, work from home. And I know people that do offer that to their employees. They could work from anywhere. I also want to bring my buy costs so low where
if you could just take 2 seconds and subscribe to this YouTube channel, we would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to get to 5K subscribers by the end of the year, and the more subscribers we have, the better guests we can get for you. So you literally just take 2 seconds right now, hit subscribe. It will also let you know when new episodes go live and everything we're up to. Thank you so much.
I'm able to pay, for example, there's a group member of mine, his buy cost on average is 29 cents. His margins are 80%, you know, and up. That's what he loves to do. He pays his streamers not hourly, but $1 per unit. $1 per unit, so it's like they never want to leave. You know, they can make $400 a day. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you come every day, wouldn't you want to come every day if you're making $40? You can make $12,000 a month if you come every day, you know. At 400 units, you could probably sell that, you know, 6 hours. So you're getting pretty high. You know, that's what I'm working on. You know, I want to pay more because it'll be a lot easier to, you know, hire streamers. People struggle to hire good shippers. My shipping team is very, very, very good. Like they could pump out 3,000 units a day if I wanted to. But streamers, I have trouble finding more streamers. I don't know why. I actually don't know why.
Job. It's a grind, man. Yeah. Talking for that long, like it is hard. I think the max I did was like 2.5 hours, and I didn't even have a voice. And I was like,
maybe that
I'm talking a podcast like every Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the hard part is talking. But then I think they do build a personal relationship with the customers. I'm willing to pay more. I'm just waiting for Kristen to say, "Yo, I want a raise." All right, why would I not give her a raise?
Yeah.
Right? Because she's valuable. She's an asset to the company long term now. But I think she really does appreciate. I mean, for example, she took a month and a half off in November. Right? She went to Ecuador. Her one of her family members passed away, and I was like, damn, it was 2 weeks, and I'll be back next week. It was like a month and a half. She came back. I was like, all right, welcome back. let's nothing. Just come back to work. But most shops, I don't think they would give that much time. They'd probably be like, no, we hired someone else. Sorry. And so I think she really does appreciate that, the flexibility that I give her. So if anybody wants to come work, I'm pretty flexible. And that's the pros of having multiple accounts too. I feel like that's my main account. She's built it more than I have, honestly. She's done more live hours on there, and I tell her that. And so I'm like, that's, you can say that's her account now, right? More people know her probably than me. And so like I said, she's an asset now. And that's kind of what I want from multiple accounts too.
How's the Mr. Beast effect been? Has it been a noticeable effect?
The first few days it was, not really. It wasn't really.
You know what I thought about that?
What it brought was what people I've heard. It brought a lot of what we call giving goblins. It brought a lot of people that just want giveaways, and they're on the app for giveaways. But it definitely had a little spike, in viewership. Oh my god! One show was I kid you not, they were probably making $8,000 per hour, dude. And they went 24 hours. It was like bam, 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 bam. They were going ham because they had a bunch of traffic, right? And they obviously planned for that. They had enough inventory for that, and the electronics high end, right? They were getting over retail and stuff. It was crazy. But besides that, Mr. Beast effect, it wasn't. Didn't really help, honestly. But there is still growth. For example, the electronics category back in September, I remember very clearly because I would check pretty often. At that point, there's 3,500 average reviewers. Now is averaging around 8,000. Which is, that's how crazy it is, 8,000 viewers. There's 300 million people in the U.S. It's nowhere near its peak, and I think that's what people don't really grasp, just start now. Even if you do once a week, it's still something, but yeah.
I think I thought the same thing. It just probably brought young people who are giveaways. But I'd say my prediction, after you were on the pod, we talked about it a lot. And I was like, what that's going to take is just one woman to get on there and sell product, not give away products. But you have Kim Kardashian or somebody huge. And then you bring on 100,000 women on the platform that have never been on there before. And those buyers stick. Then you have a 20% stick rate, where Mr. Beast probably had a 0.1% stick.
That's kind of what Cool Cakes is doing. Cool Cakes, he's been growing month over month. He averages around 8,000 viewers now. When I first started watching him, he was trying to break 2,000.
Yeah.
So even after he got rated, he's still doing pretty well. But he does very good giveaways. But he's going even harder now. I know he does $500,000 in 8 hours.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. So I think he went from doing 250 per day. He was doing probably 4 or 5 days a week. And now he just goes ham on Saturday and Sundays, really. I think he just realized, why don't I just do 8 hours and just go even harder and clear 1 million in a weekend?
Yeah,
I think it gives him 2 more days to fulfill too. So if you sell on a Friday, you don't have to ship it out till Tuesday.
Yeah.
Versus if you're selling every single day on a weekday, you're bound to get caught up, especially if employees don't show up. Or the margins on that, I honestly don't know. I don't know where he gets most of his gear. It's pretty consistent, inventory I've seen. But he mixes in liquidation too into there for sure. For example, I actually bought like 20 shirts from him for like $60, right? And they were different sizes, right? But I'm like, all right, whatever, it's $60. I just want to see what it comes in the box, just want to check it out. And they're brand new shirts, but it's still a deal. I mean, you got $3 a shirt, long sleeves, but that's definitely liquidation. It's just stuff that people don't want. They just give it to pennies on the dollar. But that's what I said, in the beginning. That's essentially what you want and what I want, I want people calling me and telling me, yo, I got this. You want it? All right, I'll give you this much. Because I know I can move it. And that's why I'm going, to the closeout show and the ESD show, trade show, and I think the competition is going to be so low. People are not buying for Amazon anymore, but also because I can sell unbranded product now. So you're able to negotiate more too. So that should be interesting. This could be next week. Be there on Saturday. Yeah. But I don't know how he obviously probably mixes in the liquidation to increase margin. But I honestly don't know what the margin would be like on that.
Yeah, it's probably a little low. Like it's probably, if I had to guess, those nice items he's low on, and then the liquidation's probably like a crazy margin because the liquidation for him might be free. It might just be like buying a bunch of stuff and then being like, "Will you also take this stuff?" And he's like, "Sure."
So for sneakers, I think the sneakers, at least the used ones or like used like new, those are definitely the highest margins because I be watching their videos on YouTube and I see what they pay for like brand new hype shoes. Is like, wow, okay, if they're making like at least 20-30% margin before employees, just imagine the used shoes. They're at least making 50% margins before employees and everything. So it's still not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty solid.
But it's because he's the only one that can move volume like that, and he's definitely getting the highest pricing in the market. You have 8,000 viewers, and you say this shoe, you use like new shoes, $300. People pay $200, and you paid $50-$60. It's you're killing it. I don't think anyone is selling shoes as high as he is right now. So, and buying that type of volume too.
Yeah.
Are you still selling on Amazon and Walmart?
Nah. Nah. But I don't think my boys aren't either. I mean, like I said, Andy did $1 million in his first like 3 months. He took it seriously on WhatNot. He's doing some like drop shipping from the supply, and he's like, dude, just be honest, you're not even paying attention to that. He's like, honestly, yeah. And we sent videos to each other. Like he just sent me. He's like, there's like a meme or something. It's like, oh, every single person is gonna go, or entrepreneur is gonna go through one year in their life or one moment in their life where it's just life changing and just changes. And he's like, yo, why is this WhatNot right now? And it is. It's just, I'm telling y'all, if you're watching this video, WhatNot is so life changing. It's insane how he's gonna hit $1 million in a month in the next 2 months. He's about to get a 4,000 square foot warehouse in 2 weeks. And the margins are going to increase. So even if he does $300,000 profit, he never did that on Amazon. He did $450 last month in February. Imagine if there was 3 more days, he would have hit $500,000. The last time he did $500,000 in sales on Amazon was back in September, but then it went back down because one of the suppliers cut him off. But yeah, it's just, just do that on your 3rd month too on a new platform. It's freaking insane. I told him, I'm like, you're gonna hit 10 mil this year. He's like, God willing. And I'm like, you're gonna hit it. Like, there's just no way you're not. You're only running on one account. He only has one account. He only has 2 streamers. All he has to do is just double down, open a new account, bam. And it's just the cash flow is insane. If you clear 30 grand a day right now in payouts, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, you get freaking 100 bands sent to your bank, like, bam, like, right that, or you get sent 30 bands every day from WhatNot. And I'm telling you, he's like, his margins are a little lower. He says they're about 20%. I told him why. It makes sense. he's running out of 1,000 square feet. You ever walked into a tight bathroom where you can barely sit down? That's kind of what he's working with to fulfill 1,000 orders a day. He has no space to work. He has the inventory there. He has a streaming, barely any space to stream. And you have a small gap to work, and you have like 7 employees. So I told him, I broke the numbers down. I'm like, dude, you're gonna clear insane amount of profit. He just signed a lease, 3 months ago. He's a 2-year lease. I'm like, yo, you're gonna make so much money in the next 3 months. You could pay that lease and pay the next lease off. Just find another warehouse. You're spending too much money on labor. It's eating your margin. He should be at 40-50% at least, but he's at 20 because he just spends so much money on labor. But yeah, just imagine he's running on a very tight space and he's doing that. He's making it work. He had to get a storage unit for more inventory. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Let me just say. Hi.
I got 2 more questions. One thing, I noticed a bunch of these electronic sellers sell these like cheap Chinese knockoff like Game Boys and drones. Explain that. And how do people fall for that? And like, I noticed that when I was watching shows like your show, you sell a bunch of like actual electronics, but there's other shows where they sell like, you can just look it up on AliExpress and it's like $2.
Well, like I explained to the experience is one. That's one reason, and you gotta also look at everything on Amazon is Chinese.
Yeah,
everything. They're all buying for $5-10, but they're marking it up whatever margins they want to be at or whatever the market value is at. Versus live shopping, you can essentially price at whatever you want. If you bought that dash cam for $5 and you say it's $110, there's nothing really wrong with that. That's the price that's the retail price you put it at. That's what corner stores do all the time. That's what Walmart does. That's what Amazon does. You're pricing on your own. Amazon's a little different because there's so many sellers on the same listing, so there's no, but there's map price.
Yeah.
And so like that's the next phase too. Like I know Andy already ordered 2 containers from China.
Those electronics, dude, on the back of them, it'll say like $500 retail, and then you're like, it's
those. So that's pretty easy to do. The supplier does it. There's warehouses filled with containers of those drones. So those drones, they're 50% margin on those.
Yeah.
Selling not only from the supplier selling it to us, the sellers on WhatNot, also the sellers on WhatNot are making 50% margins. At least, that's ridiculous. At least, if you're not making at least 50% margins on that type of gear, I think you just suck. But yeah, no, that's that drone's famous on WhatNot, and it's crazy, but it's it's just what they priced it at the end of the day. You could put this water bike. That's what the guy who gets $70 for a clicker. He's like, all right, you go to the airport and you pay $8 for a water bottle when they paid less than 50 cents for it. Why? Convenience, entertainment. Obviously on WhatNot, he was explaining to me. He's like, she's like, for my show, you need to sell it more as it's a premium. Because I'm over here ripping $1, go. You give me $5, I'm so profitable. I'm like, damn, where like this is you guys got 90% off, But he's like, he's like you should be like really targeting why they should be buying. For example, there's no targets in certain areas, right? You're providing a show, right? And it's just, it's like you gotta sell your product even more, and that's kind of like we're not doing, and I don't think a lot of liquidation sellers really do it either. You probably notice the different vibes from like those electronic sellers to like a liquidation seller. We're more like, all right, here go, versus those electronic sellers. They pay more money, but it's new product. and they're like, "Go, chat, go, go," because they need you to bid that up for them to be profitable. Versus us on the other side, we're like, okay, we get $4, we're profitable, you know. So it's a different side of whatnot. But yeah, I think that's why they pay. It's just entertainment and also the addiction. Oh, the adrenaline too. Adrenaline's a big thing. They're just fighting for it. They don't want to lose. They everybody wants to win.
Yeah, I bet you could set up like 15, 20 grand, set up a studio with a wheel in the background and a bunch of electronic, a leaderboard, and just like max dopamine people and get so much money for it. Because everybody's kind of like, even if it's a warehouse, it's
that
like.
Exists though.
It does? I haven't watched it in like probably $5.
Surprise! It was a cost surprise test. You could put like 100 items on a wheel or in the spinner, and you could put like 3 banger products, like 3 iPhone 17s, and the rest would be junk. And people are just swiping to win it. It's essentially gambling, but
that's gambling.
Yeah, they've disguised it as surprise set. There's stricter rules to that because it has to all. This is why I don't even want to touch that. Like, I know top sellers who've been in the game for a very long time. They get hit with violations and they're not doing it anymore. It's very, very strict. For example, if you're going to sell headphones, if you're going to do a surprise set with the headphones, they all have to be headphones on the surprise set. So if you're going to do phones, they all have to be phones. The handbags, they all have to be handbags. And you have to describe if it's new, brand new, used. You have to so many rules. I just stay away from that. I just do random pulls to show the product, sell it. I don't want to get into that. Even though it might be more profitable, I don't think it's worth the headache. You protect your account health, y'all.
I meant spinning for coupons or something. Like you have a wheel of like, we'll write your name up here, we spin for a coupon. This is max dopamine. Like what ways can we get them engaged? Because I thought about this when I'm doing it in my house. I'm like, well, I don't have the capability, but you can put 15 grand to a studio and like make it crazy. Like lights everywhere. Like people get on there and they're just overloaded.
Yeah. For liquidation, it's hard. Like I said, we pull on demand. I have like 20 pallets lined up in the warehouse, and we basically pull on demand. All right, this pallet has bedding. This pallet has backpacks. This pallet has toys. This pallet has this. And I found at scale is the best way to move. I know people just sell like one category. I like selling multiple categories. They don't know what's going to come up, and they don't. I'm also selling on demand, so I control the pricing to a certain extent.
Yep.
All right.
Well, John, you got anything else?
I think that's it because he has to go. Where can everyone find you to learn more about WhatNot or just reach out?
You can find me on Instagram, and YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Young CEO Levi. I yap a lot, y'all. You're gonna. I post every day.
All right, guys, go follow Levi. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.
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 If you enjoyed this episode and want to listen to the last episode we did with Levi, click up here or over here. It's going to be somewhere around there. And let us know what you think in the comments.